Yeah, so this is a quick mic check.
Send it.
Yeah, so this is a quick mic check.
You sound good.
Hello.
Hicks, go again.
Hello.
Oh, sorry, I cut that off.
We're good.
All right, and we are live.
Welcome back to the We Valiant Few podcast. I am one of your hosts, Slapshot.
Crossfire's here.
Raptor. Blackbeard.
Hi, Blackbeard.
Hello.
Today, we have a special episode for you guys, something that we are still novice in and looking to grow ourselves in, and we are covering what we know in the medical field. So, before we get into that, Crossfire, would you like to go over all of our links, socials, etc.?
Okay, as the usual.
My social security number is.
Yeah. stay tuned for that. No, of course, Discord. Discord.wevaliantfew.com. Engage in the community there. We're growing our group slowly but surely. Some interesting conversation. People are asking the right questions. So again, discord.wevaliantfew.com. Also, you can check us out on Instagram at instagram.com/wevaliantfew or at wevaliantfew. YouTube, as you're listening now, or if you're listening to when we upload this on the podcast platforms, it's youtube.wevaliantfew.com. The website has all those links, wevaliantfew.com. And you can check us out on all major podcast platforms, Fridays at 5 p.m. Eastern.
All major podcast platforms include Spotify. If you happen to use Apple Podcasts, we're there too. Anchor FM and any
about
other
13
ones.
others.
Yeah, 13 others. I'm not even entirely sure what we're on, but we're there. I'll tell you that.
We're there.
We are there, that's for sure.
Thank you, Anchor.
Yeah, so if you like what we're doing, please share this episode, share it to your friends, share it to your parents, share it to your parents' friends, and whatnot.
And everyone else.
And everyone else that doesn't encompass.
Share it to your dog, please.
Share it to your dog, please, yes. All right, getting into current events. Mine's not, it's kind of brief, but it's more so ironic, and it's kind of like a, told you so type thing. But have you guys seen all the controversy coming out about how all of the quote-unquote verified stories with the Georgia phone call are now magically not verified?
What is this?
The person who was the informant for apparently all, 13 major mainstream sources that were for the Georgia phone call. It was one person for all of them that was quote-unquote verified, and they had the story completely wrong. It wasn't firsthand knowledge, and then they were going through and doing a request for documents and going through their computer and found an actual recording of the phone call that was supplied to them by somebody who was on the phone call on behalf of Raffensperger. And they were literally, so effectively what they did is listen to the phone call, went, oh, this doesn't fit my narrative, deleted it, and reported something completely different.
Delete.
And I can't recall the name, but their name is public.
The Georgia phone calls is in regard to the election.
January 2nd call between Trump and Raffensperger in regards to the election,
Okay.
yes.
Wow.
Well, that doesn't surprise me at all.
I just think it's funny that now it's well, there's actually a couple things with that. It's one, the big thing I'm curious about is, are we going to see any actual media accountability of this?
Of course not. Absolutely
Are
not.
you joking?
But that was a rhetorical question. But the interesting thing is that Florida has a law that it requires both parties' consent when recording phone calls. Trump lives in, when the call went, Trump was,
Residing in?
Yes, I don't know what you call it. Not a citizen because he's a citizen of the United States. Whatever they live in the state. The residency is his residency was in Florida at that time.
Okay.
So there was a two-party thing. So I don't know if he consented to that or not.
There's multiple states that have that two-party,
Yeah,
consent.
it's not just Florida, but Florida in particular. That was nice.
What just happened? What is happening?
Hold on a second.
Hold on.
I think that's good. That must have been just a weird bug or something. Oh well, whatever.
Anyways.
Yeah, but Florida in particular is important because, again, Trump is a resident of Florida. So if they actually pull that law into effect and really, push it, that's like felony charges on that. It's pretty serious. I think that might be my microphone, me hitting this line or something. We're still getting that feedback somewhere.
Why don't we move all the phones off the table?
Yeah.
That might help.
Having
Yep.
a little bit of difficulties at the moment.
That's possible. Yeah, that definitely might be it.
The
So-
interference.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
Anyway.
So, my news for today is earlier this week, Dan Crenshaw and Henry Cuellar, who are both representatives in the House of Representatives, proposed the Bipartisan ATF Accountability Act, which is basically an act that tells the it explicitly denies the ATF from doing the things that they aren't technically allowed to do now, but do anyways. In terms of like rolling on and adding to law that they have no power to do at all.
Does
anyways.
it also impact their like how they can randomly change laws at a will?
Yeah. It basically overheads on top of takes a look into what the ATF does and prevents them from making arbitrary rulings and stuff of that nature. So then they're basically not making regular American citizens into felons overnight because they changed a rule that they had already actually ruled on months prior or years prior.
See, that's the thing is like these bills here are like you
They're
said
explicit denials rather.
well that's true. That's not I was going at the whole like thing you said about how these bills turn regular citizens into criminals. Like not the bipartisan one, but like the ATF stuff.
No, yeah, they're not even bills. They're rulings. They're
arbitrary laws.
And they're not even law. Like you can't be calling them laws because they're not laws.
No, because I guess they're not laws because the ATF doesn't have any power to create laws.
To
It's
create
like
laws,
they
they don't
set
have.
up a guideline.
Well, they don't even have that power.
They're pseudo laws though.
They have the power to enforce the law as written.
Yeah, but they change it.
Well, and that's the thing. They're not allowed to do that. What this bill does is basically it explicitly denies. So it doesn't say, there's no bill that says that they can't do this kind of stuff, but this bill basically says that no, you cannot do this because you were an enforcement branch of the executive branch,
Not a law creating branch.
You're not legislative.
Well, I mean, that just in principle should be something that everybody agrees on.
Well, yeah,
It
but
doesn't matter if it's the ATF. It could be literally any.
any three-letter organization that falls under the executive branch, the FBI, CIA, the DEA, anything.
Yeah, because again, unless it is, well, even then, because do any of them explicitly say they have the power to do stuff like that? I can't think of one.
To make law, no.
Yeah, I think it's just Congress, right?
Yeah.
Because it's Congress should
That
have the
is-
sole power to make laws.
yeah.
That's what their job is.
Because those three-letter organizations fall under the executive branch, the executive being the enforcement branch, which means the executive branch doesn't actually have any power to create law. The president the president or like governors can do executive orders, which are fucking toeing the line, but
Yeah, but even then, the executive orders
just-
have
they're not
caps.
laws.
They just
Yeah.
enforce what is already written.
yeah.
What do we call this? A strong recommendation. Yeah.
I recommend.
Well, thank
that you
God
do
someone's
this.
finally putting the ATF in their place.
I mean, we'll see. This was literally just proposed, like I think yesterday.
It's
So it's not. It hasn't been voted on or anything. But this is a step in the right direction, and from some congressmen that I actually am happy to see stuff that I care about being brought up.
Making moves.
Yeah.
I think it's
Yep.
pretty cool too that Henry Kohler, however you pronounce that, is he's a Democrat who's supporting this.
And it's bipartisan. And this is my favorite part. So they just did the bipartisan, HR 8, the whatever bipartisan, whatever they want to call it, for the universal background checks. and it was called bipartisan, and only like half, not even half, it wasn't bipartisan. It was very much one-sided, and that whole term bipartisan was used as a way to basically make the
Put a false thing on it so people support
yeah,
it.
it sounds good. It sounds cool. Like, oh yeah, bipartisan gun registry act or whatever you want to call it.
I mean,
They're putting lipstick
By
on a
everyone
pig.
loves it. It's bipartisan.
that effectively is that's effectively what that is a pseudo gun registry.
I don't know about you, but whenever you put gun,
lead into pseudo gun registry.
whenever you put gun and registry in the same sentence, it kind of has me worried.
Yeah, it
It
is.
should,
It
it
should.
should be worried.
But
Not
regardless.
the fact that it says bipartisan, gun and registry.
Well,
in
yeah,
the same
anyone with a
sentence.
brain can I mean, it's not that. That's not the actual name of the bill. You can look it up. It's HR 8. It was just passed in the House. We talked about it last podcast. But now we're using the bipartisan ATF Accountability Act, which I think is pretty funny.
So
We're using
HR 8 is the Bipartisan Background Checks Act of 2021.
yes. So we're just throwing bipartisan in front of everything.
Putting lipstick on a pig.
So
We too can play it. This
can
game.
can we enter things in the thesaurus? Is there like an open source thesaurus that we can put this in as a synonym for absolute pile of crap?
Hey,
long
listen,
winded.
it's part of the culture war. The use of these terms, the use of these like terms that make sense, that sound good to people that don't read them, actually read them. That's how you do it.
Speaking of culture war, wait, no, you still got another current event, don't you?
I do have another.
We'll get to me in a second here. Gets
I-
better.
I was also reading, and this is literally just a headline. I read a little bit of the actual article, but most of the time the article kind of just goes. It kind of stays on topic and then goes into something else. But so an article from The Root, which is a New York Times contributor, posted an article declaring whiteness is a pandemic. Yep. It's a
I'm
pandemic.
sorry that I was born.
Yeah.
Well,
That's all. That's really all I have
well,
to say. I'm
actually-
sorry that I was born.
Actually, if you want to know so let's just be real for just a second here. I think whiteness actually is a pandemic because it affects a majority of the population, and it technically spreads from one person to another just generationally. So is whiteness literally a pandemic?
Is race itself
I don't
a
know.
pandemic?
I don't know.
Does that mean we all need to be elaborated from the earth?
Does that mean we all need vaccinated?
I need to
Eliminated.
vaccinated for
Oh, God.
my whiteness.
Of course, I'm being satirical.
Yes.
But I mean, it probably does check a couple of boxes.
I mean, that's probably some article somewhere says that it spreads like a pandemic in terms of from parent to child or
and
whoever.
and this person who wrote this is like the one person at the New York Times who's actually not like a cancel culture person. They're just extraordinarily literal.
This is it's not under opinion. It's under science.
And the person that wrote it is, in fact, dealing with the same medical condition.
I just got my 6th PhD. Anyways, Slapshot onto you.
That's all I got.
I want to give a shout out to one of our friends in our group message for bringing this one up because this is actually hilarious in every single way, shape, and form. Culture War. Columbia University in New York is having segregated graduations. I mean, that's literally what it is.
We're going backwards.
So, I mean, the article does not say segregated, but
Use your brain.
you can infer that that's what this is. So the graduations they're allowing. There's like one major graduation class, but if you want to take part in a graduation class that is of people of your race, you can. So there is a white graduating class. There is a black graduating class. Asian, Latino. There's another one. Did I say black already?
Yes.
Yes.
There's one called
Lavender?
Lavender. Yes, thank you.
Lavin?
Yes, it is for the LGBTQ community.
I mean,
So anyone that falls under that,
Okay, so
you can
not
graduate
oh
with
my
them.
god, this whole culture war stuff makes me want to pull my hair out. Legitimately, like anytime I read this, whether it's something like this that brings back Jim Crow and segregation to like changing culture, like the stuff with the Mandalorian,
The cancel culture with
the
that.
cancel culture with canceling like an entertainer or anything like that for saying something or anything like it drives me freaking insane.
What I don't get is the fact that I mean everybody is fighting against this war between races and wanting to not be singled out, but yet here they are just continuing this
to do it.
toxic.
They're the only ones
Meta.
yelling. Yeah, they're
see-
the only ones talking about
Well,
it.
see, here's
Yeah.
the thing. It's like, they're trying to stop quote unquote racism by literally creating segregation.
segregation, and
Like,
creating more racism. Like they're calling whiteness a pandemic.
Okay, so that in itself is a huge problem. But even more of that is that they don't notice it.
Maybe they do, maybe they don't. Maybe
So-
so. I think. I mean, this is a little conspiracy theory, and I
Rabbit
try
hole
to
of,
to think about what may be causing this kind of stuff and where these ideas are coming from.
Conspiracy
Using their
theory.
big brain.
And
Let's insert the music for the Illuminati.
Where's Alex Jones at?
so I think there is like a plan, not like a Q plan, but
Let's turn the
I
frogs
think
gay.
I think there's a general idea of where they want to push the culture war and how they want to push the culture war to get the biggest thing.
Oh,
So
I think-
basically,
Hang on,
Yeah.
let him
This-
go. I want to hear his thoughts.
this we'll call it a liberal think tank. This liberal think tank basically comes up with these ideas and starts coining these terms. Those terms get pushed down to these people that actually like they just repeat whatever is said to them, and then they don't not only do they repeat them, but they make up their own justification for it. So they start saying them, and whenever basically that's how it becomes the way it is in terms of the culture war and how we or regular people start getting yelled at for saying regular terms or calling or for instance saying that straight people are just because you're straight that you're transphobic or something like that.
So, I want to jump back to my current event for the Columbia University thing. So, whenever I read the article, there are plenty of articles online like this. You just Google Columbia University segregated graduation, and you'll find 100 of these articles. They're taking a lot of heat for this. Like, you're either in the entire graduation class, or you pick to be with your own race graduating class.
That's so
So it's like
They're enabling segregation. What
that's
the hell?
That's what it is. It's disgusting. I want to bring up Morgan Freeman and his thoughts on the
If this
Black
is
History
going
Month.
back to the quote that he had said a while
Yeah, he
ago,
said a
this
couple-
is gonna
yeah.
be awesome because Morgan Freeman is a stand-up class act, man. Like he is just a real astute man.
I'm not going to quote anything from him, but I do remember a specific interview with, I forget who the heck it was, but they asked him his opinion on Black History Month, and he said he thinks it should be eliminated. He hates it absolutely so much. And the guy asked him why. He said, all right, let me ask you this. Why is there no White History Month? He asked the interviewer that, and the interviewer didn't know what to say. He's like, I don't know. And then Morgan asked him, all right, well, what religion are you? And he said, I'm Jewish. He's like, why is there no Jewish History Month? And the interviewer, again, didn't know what to say.
And he said like about what about me being black or or white? And he's like, I don't see that. He's like, I see a man.
Exactly. Yeah,
He's
exactly.
like, I see a man. That's all I see.
And I
Which
don't
is,
get why
I
that-
think that's how everybody. I think that's how the mass majority of everybody in this country sees everybody.
Well, I think that's how you should see it.
oh,
There's-
Here we go. This is
Correct.
the fact check on it. It says, did Morgan Freeman say Black History Month is ridiculous? And then the actual quote is, it says, I don't want a Black History Month. Black history is American history.
that's right.
absolutely. And,
yeah.
and you need to teach American history, and we're not teaching American history. either.
And if you
Here-
get
here
rid
we-
of history,
here we go.
history will repeat itself.
Here's the entire thing from 60 Minutes is Black History Month is ridiculous. Why? It says you're going to relegate my history to a month. What do you want to do with yours? Which month is White History Month? It says, okay, which month is Jewish History Month? Do you not want one? No, I don't either. I don't want a Black History Month. Black history is American history. Stop talking about it. I'm going to stop calling you a white man, and I'm going to ask you to stop calling me a black man. I know you as Mike Wallace. You know me as Morgan Freeman. And I'm not going to say I know you know this white guy named Mike Wallace. Hear what I'm saying? And I cannot agree with him more, because if you add those in, like, oh yeah, this is a black guy, or this is a white guy, that in itself is a racist action. And just like this whole thing with the university, like the people, like the people who are the administrators that are like, oh well, I think it'd be a good idea to have the white or the white graduation, the black graduation, the Latino graduation, because they're thinking about the race being that much that effective. That in itself is is incredibly racist of them.
Yeah,
It's literally a dog whistle effect, because they're like, oh well, yeah, we're gonna segregate everybody because we're not being racist. It's like, no, it's not it at all.
Being incredibly racist.
You're trying to put out a fire with gasoline. You're making it a lot worse.
It's almost similar to putting like your color or your race prior to your name on like on the name line whenever you take a
his,
test.
white.
Or like your pronouns, your race, and then your name. Like, is any of that stuff necessary?
Yes, it is.
No.
All right.
I just want to do that.
Moving on. So the next one I just wanted to briefly bring these ones to light. South Carolina okay to bill to open carry. Congratulations on them. So
Hey.
yes, moving in the right direction.
South will rise again.
Oh no!
Stop!
no.
Stop! No, it's
No.
not. They're gonna
No.
defund us.
It's gonna be anti.
We're not even funded anyway.
Last one.
You guys are
Very,
great.
very interesting one. In Idaho, the House okay to bill for school employees to conceal carry.
Oh, that's freaking awesome.
That's
fully
fucking amazing.
This is a move in the right direction.
see, my opinion on all this is, I think if they want to go through, like, if you're around kids and stuff, I think you should go through, or like go through the training that like police do. If
At least some
you're
kind
going
of-
to be around kids, I
You know
think
what?
there's a higher standard. I think you have to go through something.
I 100% agree with that.
Maybe it doesn't
Maybe
have
get
to
one
be,
of your acts
you
or
di-
something.
Yeah, whatever the details of that are, I think you need to have some professional level of training if you're carrying around children.
But I've carried around children.
Okay, but no,
Yeah,
like these are school employees. I think they need to be held
There's
to a
an
higher standard.
insurance
It's more
level.
so. It's more so. It doesn't really. It's not. It's more so not about like.
Their individual training, but liability for the school
No,
is the only
no,
thing
was
I
thinking,
can think of.
I was thinking about how teachers are typically more liberal.
Well,
and they're
the
not
more liberal ones aren't going to carry.
And well, that's not entirely true. Actually, I personally know several liberals that are very pro gun. It's weird.
Are they pro 2A or pro?
They are pro gun, pro 2A.
Well, pro 2A is different than being.
They are both. They are like they treat guns how we treat guns, but they are
interesting.
very liberal. We can talk about that after the show. But my point is, it's like it
I can
kind
see the
of
gears turning in your head.
It doesn't work.
just boil it down to liability.
Yeah.
I think they should have to go through some training, just like if you're a private security guard, you got to go through training and whatnot. I think it should be held to a bit of a standard like that.
I agree.
If you're acting, if
doesn't mean anything, but
if you're acting in a public setting like that, that's my opinion on it.
I still say no, but that's just my disagreement.
See,
Well, then how do you make it so that the random guy that comes off the street that wants to be a teacher that's never held a gun in his life is like, oh, now I can do this. It just carries a gun around kids.
What's any different from a regular person that just walks into the street, goes up to the sheriff's office and say, hey, I want to conceal carry?
Because they're not acting in a public sense.
That is public. It's a conceal carry is
They're
wholly
not
about
working
being-
like they're not working in a public sense for like a government institution.
I mean, why does that matter? Why does the setting matter? The setting doesn't matter. The people around do not matter. It is simply the fact that you have the right, and it's not necessarily even their job. Like first of all, gun free zone shouldn't exist. So, number two, you should be able to conceal carry regardless of where you are, what job you hold, whatever, because at any point there can be a threat, and you have to be able to deal with that. If you are incompetent, and we can go into the competencies of owning a firearm,
That's where I'm going with it.
then you won't be able to get a firearm in the first place with the current rules and regulations that we have.
See, that's not true though. If you're incompetent, but you're there's people in our group that I would not trust to have a firearm around children.
I don't know about that.
I absolutely 100% know that.
And in turn, I mean, we're at this point we're weighing security over freedom. We're value like it, and it's also the argument that a lot of people bring up, and I mean it's morbid, but whenever they talk about school shootings, and the left says, how many children have to die before you'll give up your guns, and usually the resounding answer is all of them.
Yeah, say all of them. That's the answer, because the only way, the most effective way to stop a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun.
Right.
Well, I'm not going to continue this. I won't continue this discussion because we can go back and forth with this all night. But what we can do with this is we can throw this to the audience and have them comment on the video what their opinion is.
Yes, I'd be very interested.
Or
to see.
you can,
That's right. I was waiting for it. I was freaking waiting for it.
yeah, or you could join the Discord and continue this conversation there, and let us know your opinions on it.
Yes.
Or if you have a different opinion than the two we've presented. So we'll get a third party in there.
Yes, I'm very interested.
The trifecta.
The trifecta. Yes, but we'll move on. Well, I mean, that's it.
Wait,
yeah.
That's it for
Wait,
news, I think.
that's-
Blackbeard, you got any current events?
Yeah.
You have anything you want to talk about?
Not that's really current.
Well, it is current events, and if it's not current, then
No, it was about
If
what
it-
happened with the awards that went on with
with the Grammy stuff.
yeah.
I have not followed that
I
at all.
honestly I heard about it a little bit on the radio, but
I mean, it was somewhat current, but I guess I mean
it was like this week. I
There's
think.
a word in there there's a word in there that starts with a G and ends with a Rammy. And as soon as I see that, I'm just not interested anymore.
well, it was just something that I was scheming by and I had happened to see, and I was like, wow, this is really cringy to me. Like,
What can you elaborate?
yeah,
on it?
yeah. All right, so one of the artists, like, there was a really provocative, style of dancing going on, and then they have this dance that's going on, but yet they want to censor everybody about how they do things, like with women being out there in these skimpy outfits, and whatnot, and then you have some
Making sexual movements.
yeah, and then you have some guy that or catcalls or something of that nature when
It's a hypocritical. Is
yeah,
basically
it's
what you're
like
trying to
that's
say.
sort
They're
of
empowering women. What are you talking about?
yeah, and like,
Hey, I mean, hey, more power to you if you want to do that. I have no problem with that. But at the same time, like, why is that celebrated, and any other means of celebrate, or wherever you find empowerment, whether that be firing rifles or anything like that, why is that evil and satanic and not satanic? I
And,
guess
like literally normal stuff is
Yeah.
like you
not
said,
normal.
it's like
Tipsy derby.
normal stuff is like completely like accosted anymore.
Yeah,
Normal stuff is actually like using a musket.
or being
It's just
Because that's what the founding fathers intended, for us to have muskets.
Do you
no.
understand
They
that?
would.
no, they
That's
intended
a
us to have flint
consolation
Glock.
prize.
Do you understand that back when the Second Amendment was written, people owned their own warships? Like, yo, this is my ship.
Check out the new ship.
There's cannons on it.
This is my Daniel Defense frigate.
Does that come in M-Lock?
Just imagine if George Washington was still alive. If he walked in and just saw my AR-15 in my hands, what would he say?
Half of me thinks he'd love it. Half of me thinks he'd absolutely hate it.
He would ask. He's like, "Where do you put the black powder?"
Let me try this.
A founding father would be
Tally-ho,
if there's a
lads.
founding father alive right now, they'd be like, "Dear God, what have you done to our beautiful country?
Honestly,
You've let
he
it
would.
go."
He's like, "Why are all these liberals not dead yet?"
Did they have liberals back then?
Ooh,
No.
ooh, that was spicy.
Very
Okay,
spicy.
so I think with that we can move on to our main topic for today's podcast, and that would be
Well, first, you gotta wake up.
waking up. That is the main topic.
Oh, that's the whole point of it all.
Yes.
Everything going on. in
Like
current
today,
events.
or here's a nice wake up moment for somebody. So the other day, whenever me and Slapshot were out shooting, I just got home from work. I had my gear on. I was out back behind my house,
Oh my
and we were
God.
getting ready to do some shooting. I hear my dog start barking, And after a little bit, I walk up to the front of my house, and lo and behold, the DHL truck driver just kind of walks up on me, and he kind of looks at me like for a second.
And he puts his hands
He's like, "Whoa, don't hurt me," or say, I can't remember what he said, but like obviously the weapon was pointed in a safe direction, and I like completely disregarded the fact that I had a rifle on me. And if you look at the Instagram, it's that Seneca one that I've been posting. But I think I startled the man.
You literally like took the package out of his hands. Which, fun fact, if you check out our Instagram at We Valiant Few, you'll actually see this sweet bayonet that Raptor ordered.
Why I got a bayonet?
He's like, I'm not delivering it. These guys are crazy.
Fix bayonets.
As Raptor takes the bayonet, well, it was a bayonet. I don't think the delivery driver knew that.
Yeah.
But as Raptor takes his package out of the delivery driver's hand and makes his way back down to the table where we were loading magazines at, I'm just like, you just walked up to the delivery driver in
Listen,
full
you're-
kit, AK in hands.
You're
and
in
you
the
didn't even...
boonies. What else do you want?
But the better question was the package from Russia.
Yes, it
Yes.
was.
Oh, you should have
You
expected that.
From the motherland.
You should have saw the name.
I'm sure that's not the
address-
worst that guy's seen.
You should have saw the name of the shipper. Like, his name was extremely
Ivan
Russian.
Petrovsky or something.
Super Russian.
Yes, Ivan.
Your name has characters that don't exist in my alphabet.
But moving on, you gotta wake up. Obviously, these current events, like, absolutely unreal. This is 2021.
It's
I
like
can't
some
believe this
positives.
shit.
It's like a bad movie, you know?
It isn't bad.
A B
It's
movie,
not
a bad
ending.
No, it's like
B
a D.
movie.
It's like a C or D movie because it's like you're like, come on, it's like the main character is getting his ass beat. Like, and it's
Do something.
the last 2 hours he's been getting his ass beat. When's the changeover gonna happen?
You're just waiting for the protagonist to get up and like finish it off and like win the movie, and
just
it's just
No,
not
he's
happening.
just getting his ass.
It's
beat.
just not
The
happening.
whole movie.
I was
is-
just waiting for the asteroids. Let's
So
be real.
we've covered a lot in season 2 already. We've covered training.
We haven't covered training yet.
Oh, we have not covered. Oh, oops, spoiler.
going
The
to
very
I'm sorry.
first thing you said.
I'm sorry.
You failed.
We've covered firearms. We've covered mindset. So I think with important mindset and firearms in your group that you're with, anything can possibly happen at any point in time where something could go wrong. So if something is going to go wrong, you need to be ready. So medical.
You need medical, and just to start this right off, medical is going to be probably one of the most useful tools that you have in your, I guess, training / preparedness
Repertoire.
bag, because this comes in handy in a lot more situations than a rifle does.
Oh yeah, like if you're driving down a highway and you see an accident, there might not be an ambulance there. Or like
Yeah,
just like that, a snap of the fingers. Like there
You
is
could
going
be-
to be
yeah.
seconds of time that are being wasted, minutes, where you could be cutting someone out of a seatbelt and saving their life before an ambulance is gonna be able to get there.
Yeah, you've got especially with massive bleeding. And the biggest thing that we're going to talk about today is like emergency medical stuff that will prevent people from losing their life. In a situation where their life could be slipping through their fingers in a very quick notice due to a car accident, due to a gunshot wound, due to anything of that nature that could cause things like bleeding or anything.
Massive
Yeah,
hemorrhaging
anything like
primarily.
that.
Any heavy trauma.
So before we go around before we continue deeper in this, let's go around the room and talk about our experience with anything medical, just so that we clear the air here. So Blackbeard, do you have any medical experience?
Other than Boy Scouts and through the fire department, nothing
So
really
Didn't you
extensive.
do anything in basic training?
Well, yeah, that through the army, yeah.
Okay, so like elaborate a little bit on Boy Scout. Like, what did you learn in Boy Scouts? What did you learn in fire department? And
Well, through the Boy
Army.
Scouts, I learned a lot about like splinting and that kind of stuff, like and how to drag people, build apparatuses to get people out that can't walk or broken an ankle, things of that nature.
okay,
And then through the fire department, do a lot of stop the bleed, CPR, kind of brushed, first aid stuff, nothing too extensive because we have EMS for
Right.
anything super heavy.
Is that good?
And then through the army is pretty much just a little bit more in depth to that. And then you go into a little bit of like head trauma, gunshots, stab wounds and stuff like that. But I mean, that's pretty much it.
Right, some like basic like field stuff that
Yeah.
you might need to know, not
Yeah.
like anything super medical.
Nothing
Okay.
that a medic would jump into.
Okay.
I mean, it's basically it's your or for me, I did I took 2 CLS classes whenever I was in the army. I was in the army for 4 years, so two of those years I took, it was like a week-long CLS class to include like I also did like the basic training stuff and whatnot.
Elaborate on what CLS is for the audience.
CLS is Combat Lifesaver class, and actually it's kind of going out of, I guess, style, for lack of a better word, because as I was getting out, the Army decided that, because before a CLS were like specifically identified people, like you are a CLS certified soldier. Now they're making all soldiers CLS certified or Combat Lifesaver. And basically what Combat Lifesaver is you go through kind of the baseline of what a medic would go through. Obviously the medics know a crap ton more about everything, and this is literally just, you are the first person on scene for in a firefight, and you can provide aid. You have the tools and the know-how to do this, and it just goes through what we'll talk about later, like TCCC March, calling in medevacs and CASEVACs, and stuff like that.
Okay.
Then continue with what you were doing, or your experience.
Oh yeah, I mean that was basically my experience. I did that. The classes were a week long, and I didn't have to like actually utilize any of the skills that I used, but like I was tasked to be like the CLS for different range events and stuff like that. Make sure.
Yeah, like we did a lot of drills. Like we had like the dummies and everything.
Yeah.
And then you had people that were downed, and you sort of performed the procedures in a light fashion.
Yeah, we did them on like other people, but also like for the CLS, the culminating event for the CLS class was it's super expensive, high tech facility where you basically go in. There's fog machines, there's gunshots, super loud noise playing over speakers. You've got a super realistic dummy that bleeds, and it talks to you and it breathes and all of that, and you basically have to perform aid or diagnose the dude's problems. I mean, sometimes it's really hard to see because the dummies, like, you're not actually seeing any like exit holes. You have to search for enter and exit wounds. You've got to find like where arterial bleeds and actually stop it, and that might mean twisting the windlass on a tourniquet like 50 times until that shit stops. And if it doesn't stop, then you throw another tourniquet on, all while a medic is screaming in your ear saying, you are killing this man.
That's cool.
Well,
That's
you
really
have
cool.
to have a good simulation.
Yeah,
like,
and
like it
that's-
has to be a high stress level,
And
simulation.
it was stressful.
You have to take a pass on that.
I mean, you need to.
Everybody
Everyone should do something similar.
should have some level of training like that.
I agree.
Yeah.
100%.
Is that it for your background?
Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, I mean, so other than what you've taught me, just in our medical days and whatnot, when I worked for the research lab, I was the main OSHA point person and dealt with all of our safety and medical stuff for that lab. So we had our standardized first aid stuff, which is straightforward.
Band-Aids and-
You're not going to be sitting there and have some massive arterial bleed
Yeah.
happen. But that stuff, a lot of it was like if there's any chemical problems, or like if you got something in your eyes, or if you burnt yourself, or that nature of stuff. And that's where a lot of my background was, with that type of stuff that I've done more than the average person. And I'll have you know, I can make a hell of a bandage out of a napkin and a roll of black tape. I've done that so many times. But other than all that, that's pretty much it.
My experience as far as medical goes, what Raptor has shared with our group is about the extent of mine. I, for work, was required to be CPR certified, so I can do that. I'll have you know I'm very good with mouth-to-mouth.
Oh boy.
I could use an AED if needed, and also I looked up what was in a Stop the Bleed class and extensively researched on my own time the information within those classes. So as far as that stuff goes, I essentially took my own online Stop the Bleed class, if you want to call it that. But other than that, that's all I got.
Kudos to you.
And to those that don't know what Stop the Bleed is, it is generally it's a free course provided by most firearms
A lot of firearms instructors have stopped the bleed classes. Also, like hospitals and stuff sometimes do free or lowered costs, like
I know
emergency trauma.
I know
stuff.
like a lot of fire departments, because I know our fire department does that. Like we'll do a CPR class and a stop the bleed class, so people can come in off the street and get certified.
Yeah, and there's also YouTube stuff. We're not gonna go super in depth as to like what you need to do. We're gonna give you a brief overview of like things, what to expect, and then
Then you can do your own
then you
research
can do
from
your
there.
own research, figure out where you can go to get that kind of stuff. And if you need help, you can always ask us on the Discord and stuff like that.
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to clear the air because we are not experts, but we want to provide the basic knowledge necessary for you guys to want to go out and want to learn more.
We want to open the door for you to know where to look, know where to start looking.
Right.
Yeah. So with that, we can start with some types of medical equipment. Does anyone want to?
Yeah, so I wrote up these show notes here,
Okay.
so I want you guys to pitch in as needed here. So I think a good starting point would be kind of going over some basic types of medical equipment that you might see in a more combat-based field, or like even still to like day-to-day like car accidents.
The biggest thing is like the bleeding part.
Right. So I mean, as far as combat goes, you might have like an IFAC or an MFAC.
What's an IFAC?
IFAC is an individual first aid kit,
What's an MFAC?
a multiple first aid kit.
What's the difference?
An individual is for your goddamn self. Multiple is for many.
How many?
I actually don't know the number.
It's probably like 4.
The 4 was my
I
guess.
was
Yeah.
gonna say 4, but I didn't want to be wrong.
Those are basically your packs for utilize where you keep all of your medical equipment in, and or extra medical equipment depending on how much you need to carry on you for whatever mission that you're running. Probably one of the most important medical piece of equipment is the tourniquet.
That is my number one.
Yeah, I would agree. It's the most important thing.
It is argued that you should have as many tourniquets on you as you
As
do
you do
limbs.
limbs.
So 4. I mean, technically 5 if you want to count your neck, but that doesn't actually work like that.
You
can't tourniquet your neck.
You.
But yeah, so the tourniquet, which is used to stop bleeds, it is something that basically applies enough pressure to your artery that stops it from flowing. Whether that be, there's a bunch of different kinds. There's like the CAT system tourniquets. I've seen like Ranger ratchet strap tourniquets. I've seen the rats, or it's like basically like a string with a metal loop that you twist.
It's all about tension and
Yeah,
leverage.
you can make a tourniquet out of a triangle bandage and a stick.
You can literally take scissors and cut some of your teammates' pants and make them into
Yeah,
a tourniquet.
whatever it is.
Your
And-
teammate might be really pissed off at you if he lives, but
No,
I
I mean,
think he's
I
gonna be
wouldn't be.
really
No, I'd be.
gracious.
Dude. I mean, you're taught to get the injured person as naked as you possibly can,
yeah, I guess so.
because you need to find all the wounds and fix
Right.
them. But moving on, we've got hemostatic agent, or quick clot, which is basically stuff that you shove basically rolls of toilet paper down into someone's wound, and I've literally had to
Packing.
do this. Yeah, you just pack the wound like square by square into the wound cavity until
It stops going
you
in.
stop the bleeding. And that the hemostatic agent basically makes that wound clot quicker. Chest seals, which are if you get a chest wound,
Sucking chest wound.
sucking chest wound, where whenever you breathe, it's basically preventing you from breathing because there's a massive hole in your chest. Is that correct?
Yeah. So now there's the vent chest seals. Now you have 2 to a pack, and they will have, whenever you lay them onto your entry and your exit wound, they will have these vents that allow you to suck in, and then whenever that allows air to escape out but not come back in.
That's to prevent
You-
like
you-
the need to use a needle decompression.
Yes,
because
and
that would be
with those decompression needles, nobody should use those unless you are trained. Like, that is a trained thing only.
I was trained to do it, at least in CLS.
Yeah.
That I guess now.
But I'm saying for like any of the listeners, like if you go out and you get one of these
Don't
kits,
do them to your friend.
do
no.
not do this unless you are trained, because you have the potential to kill the person you're trying to save.
Yeah, whenever I was online looking at North American Rescue and what they have to offer on their site, whenever I purchased my IFAC, it would not allow me to purchase my IFAC with a chest needle unless I had a license
Yes.
to provide online at the point of sale.
Like a lot of the, like some of the, to go in some of the contents that I have wrote down that go into your standard like combat IFAC would be like a tourniquet, gauze, quick clot, chest seal, non-latex gloves, trauma dressing or pressure dressing, whichever.
Which is basically just a nice bandage.
Yeah.
Yep.
There's a nasal.
Pharyngeal tube.
Yes.
Yeah.
The trumpet, the nasal trumpet.
That's to create an airway if you are unable to breathe or lacking.
And those also require a little bit of training. Like,
They're not that hard.
no, they're not hard, but I would not want somebody that has no idea what it is just to shove that thing in my nose.
I mean, if I was dying, I wouldn't give a shit who's putting it in my nose.
Yeah. And what those are used for is somebody that has some sort of trauma that they are either unconscious or not in the right, that can't control their breathing, or
It creates an airway.
Yes.
Like it forces an airway.
yeah, it forces an airway. And then moving on to some sort of burn cream, a slew of band-aids, large, small, butterfly, because it doesn't matter, any kind of cut, small, big, medium, or whatever.
Can get infected.
Yeah, an infection, you stand of that getting septic, you can die from that. Some people say with super glue, whether you can use super glue that you can buy at the store or you get medical super glue, in the time it could save you.
I have absolutely used, nothing life threatening, of course, but I've absolutely used super glue.
I have a very close love for super glue with the chainsaw that went into my knee, so that saved
Jesus
me.
Christ.
Oh my god.
Because
That's a hemorrhaging.
yeah.
That
Well,
is-
I can go into that later if we choose to, but
that's pretty screwed up.
yeah. Well, being a proud man, I want to self-medicate.
I guess I'm still a boy.
Yeah, I haven't hit my knee with a chainsaw yet.
That was a total accident. Like, that was uncontrollable. But
I hope
moving
so.
on.
I sure hope it was.
Yeah. Well,
It was
moving on.
purpose.
Ibuprofen,
mean,
Israel dressings or Israeli
That's
dressings.
the same thing as a pressure dressing.
Yeah. Well, shears, splinting material, trauma tape, and a mouth barrier for performing CPR, because
You don't want to get their AIDS.
you never know what
Essentially.
somebody has.
But essentially, at the bare minimum, though, if you were having an IFAC just to treat yourself, tourniquet, gloves, quick clot, bandage, essentially, I'd say they're the bare minimums. Would you
Yeah,
say? Rapper?
Gauze. I mean, you need basically any room extra that you have that isn't chest seals or tourniquets or whatever. You should be packing with gauze. You should be packing with maybe like extra stuff. Trauma. The shears are nice, but maybe like in the moment, quite honestly, in the moment, you're
Just
not
rip.
really gonna be cutting stuff or whatever.
Yep.
You're probably gonna use the whole damn thing.
Just rip. Yeah, so like for instance, this one here, there's a survival wrap, there's the emergency bandage, there is a tourniquet in there, there is the compression gauze, there's a Sharpie, which I think
Well, that's
something we
for
did.
the tourniquet.
That's important because that's to write the time on the tourniquet.
Yeah.
Because there is a time frame that you have, that once you get to the actual medical personnel, they need to know how long that
how long
tourniquet's
it's been on them. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, just in general, having that with you, a Sharpie in general, for whatever it is, you should.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you.
But I know what it's for in here. But again, the tourniquet, combat gauze. This one has a chart, so it tells you
That's
what to do.
basically you tape that to your patient's
Oh, that's
forehead,
right. You have one of these. You showed me that. Yeah, with all the details
with all
on
the
it.
details. So then whenever you get to the evac, you can hand them off and be
Ma-
like,
and
"This is they already know everything that's wrong with them and what you've done."
Here's the twin pack of those vent chest seals, gloves that looks like tape, and then the
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 nasal
nasal
Would you
phalange.
the nasal pharyngeal tooth.
Yeah.
pharyngeal? Yeah.
Phalange.
And a fun fact about those are measured in French. Like that is the measurement for those.
What?
What?
That is, if you look it up, it is measured in French. That is the measurement French.
Interesting.
Interesting.
Well, they also
And
at
there are
least when-
different and there's different sizes for a child versus an adult.
Yeah,
You learn something new every day.
Seriously though.
they just told us to shove it in their nose and not give it crap.
And there is
Yeah, honestly.
lube that comes with those that is water based that you can
Yes.
add to that.
Don't use blood.
Yeah.
There you
Not
go. Look,
use blood.
one
Obviously, don't use
nasopharyngeal array, which is 28 FR. Here you go.
French.
Wow.
French.
With lube.
With lube. Yeah.
I love lube.
Brilliant.
If you didn't
You
say
love
it, I was.
Yeah.
Okay, so that is like the basic understanding of what is in like a medical kit. This is something that's great to keep in your car, or something that's great to go with you to the range. Honestly, I don't go to the range without a medical kit. I think it's dumb if you're concealed carrying this medical stuff on you is important, can be useful. But yeah, so the next thing is we're gonna go into a little bit. Our notes are a little backwards, but we're gonna talk about TCCC and March. TCCC, and this stuff is all based on what the Army currently and or has trained people on how to perform medical stuff. And you can apply this to basically anything, whether it be a gunshot wound. Like, it's all the same. Hemorrhaging is hemorrhaging regardless of it being a gunshot wound, regardless of someone losing a limb, whatever. It's all the same. So TCCC, which is Tactical Combat Casualty Care, is the steps in the system on how to treat a casualty during in a firefight, or someone got wounded and you got to deal with it. March is a system that basically talks about what the priority of issues or stuff that you kind of go over in terms of. So we've got like the M in March is massive hemorrhaging. That's the first thing you check. You make sure you stop all massive hemorrhaging. The A is airway. Make sure that they have an airway. Make sure that they're breathing. Make sure that they have a pulse, something like that. R, did I write these? I can't remember.
Yes,
what it was.
respiratory.
Respiratory. C, circulation, and H, hypothermia. Because obviously whenever you go into shock, you need to make sure that they don't get cold.
Otherwise, they're gonna die.
Yeah, they're losing blood, which means they're gonna get cold. You could be in the desert and whatever, and you have to still worry about hypothermia. That's another thing you should add to your thing is a thermal blanket, which is usually like a piece of tinfoil.
Mylar.
Yeah, whatever it is. But yeah, so March and TCCC. So we'll go over a little bit of TCCC. This is just to give you a nice warm and fuzzy of what it is. I'm not gonna go super into detail because I don't really trust myself to give an actual class of this, but I will give you a general idea. So the TCCC Tactical Combat Casualty Care starts like this. We've got the first thing is care under fire. This is everything that you can do while you still are receiving active fire, like you're still taking direct fire. So, for instance, Blackbeard, what can you do if you are still taking direct fire and you've got a guy down? What is the only things that you can do?
Well, you're pretty much just gonna drag them into a place.
What are you
where-
gonna do before you drag them?
What am I gonna make sure the area's clear?
You can't get to them. So
Well, you
so-
definitely have
yeah.
to.
The first two things. The first thing you do is shoot back.
Yeah, you're gonna
You
fire
shoot-
maneuver.
You
fire
yeah,
maneuver.
you shoot back until the enemy is
You
suppressed.
drop a JDAM on them.
The
Oh.
hey, if that's what it takes. The next thing you do is you make sure that
5 feet away from
you have, or you yell over to your buddy and say, "Hey, are you alive? Can you fix yourself?" Whatever, while you're shooting at the enemy. You're suppressing fire. You're seeing if your buddy can help himself. If he can't, he may respond. He may not. If he does respond, he can start doing that stuff.
I want to make a quick point.
Okay.
Yes, it might be traumatizing to see your friend get hit, but like, it's not going to be very helpful if
if you get hit too.
Right.
Yeah.
So
And
eliminating that threat first is ultimately more important than your hit friend.
Yes.
In my defense, I did not know how far away he was, where he was at.
Regardless, you still
Yeah,
it's
I
the
got you.
situation.
I got you. I got you.
you still have. I mean, the biggest thing is put fire back down range or stop the danger. Get this person to a safe area or create a safe area. Whether it's a car accident and they're in a burning car, I'm going to get this guy into a safe area where I can properly perform medical stuff. The only medical intervention that I can utilize in the care under fire thing is a tourniquet. This is you can quickly apply a tourniquet during this, or maybe while you're pulling them out, get a tourniquet if you notice like massive hemorrhaging. Now don't tourniquet like a cut. Tourniquet.
This is a
the
wound where you were losing
massive amounts of blood. Like it's bright red. It's usually spurting. It's kind of hard to miss once you actually see it. So that is care under fire. So you basically you shoot back, you grab the guy, or you tell the guy, hey, fix yourself. Can you fix yourself? You're gathering information through this. And then you get that person to a safe area, or you make the area safe, get them behind a piece of cover, and then you move into tactical field care, which is where you basically apply all of your other interventions, whether that be, and also let me note this, every time you move into another section of like the TCC thing, so if you apply a tourniquet in number 1, like in care under fire, check that tourniquet again once you get them into a safe area. Make sure it's still holding.
Yeah, especially if you move around or something like that, it could settle.
Yeah, it could settle. It could slip.
Clothing moves.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know.
I mean, another good thing or a rule of thumb is get them as naked as possible. So then you don't have to worry about it. Skin on skin contact is always best, and you also want to make sure that you go over their entire body and you're able to diagnose all of the problems wrong.
Yeah, for that exact reason, what you said about the clothing being a problem.
I believe that's part of March as well. You're going over their entire body first.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're assessing every portion of their body.
But you're applying interventions as you go, because you don't want to basically look, he's bleeding on his right arm, we're gonna move down to his chest now. Oh, he's got a sucking chest wound. Oh, that sucks. We're gonna move down to the legs.
All this has to be done with a sense of urgency.
Yeah,
Right.
You're trying to save somebody's life, so this stuff is very important. So moving into tactical field care, that's where you can kind of apply the march idea. Go down that thing, go from head to toe, check behind, like you're checking all over the person, behind their head, everything, searching for wounds or anything like that. This could have been from like a car accident, so maybe their legs crushed. It could have been from like an IED went off, and you have to basically check for shrapnel, check and see if there's cuts, if there's burns, stuff like that. So we're going head to toe, following the march algorithm. And applying interventions as we go. Obviously, the biggest things that we want to fix are hemorrhaging, airway, and then as we go down, they become more quality of life rather than life-saving. Personally, I would say that the most important, obviously, is hemorrhaging and the airway, because you need to breathe and you need blood. Can't have your blood all over the floor.
Yeah, those are a little bit required.
Yeah, you need those. If you got a little cut and it's like a venial or capillary bleed, like you ain't gonna die. Rub some dirt in it, you'll be fine.
I believe I saw. Was it those videos that you shared with us? Were they like British Special Forces?
Oh, the UF Pro stuff.
Yes.
I don't know if they're British. They maybe.
No,
I think they're German.
They're German, and
the
the
instructor
trainer is Israeli.
Yeah.
Okay.
That guy's awesome.
Yeah.
Those
Okay,
videos.
good.
Those videos were hilarious. But
He talks so fast.
He does.
But another point that he made was if your teammate is fallen and I forget what the circumstance was, but make sure that they are turned over onto their stomach so they do not choke on their own blood.
Yeah,
If
I
you
mean,
cannot
there's a
treat them at the-
recovery. So in CPR and everything else, there's a recovery position,
Right.
which is basically you lay them on their side, knee up. They've got like
And their
they're
arm.
laying on their arm, and they've got like their other arm over their head, or like something
Yeah.
similar. You can look it up. But yeah, that's a recovery position. If they throw up any like discharge that comes out of their mouth or face, they're not choking on it.
Okay.
And that's like after. But then after, so we've done the care under fire, we've done the tactical combat or the tactical field care. Then, which this can also be done during the tactical field care, but then you get into tactical evacuation care. And the main point of this is, again, we're going to check all of our stuff. We're going to check our tourniquets, check our interventions, making sure that everything's holding. You can also apply more tourniquets if necessary. Like, so say you've got a arterial bleed on your leg, and you stopped it, and you checked it again, but now it's bleeding again. Don't undo that tourniquet that you already have. Apply another one.
Right. It's just extra pressure.
Yeah.
Pressure is your friend in
Well,
that.
it's
in that
extra
state.
pressure, and it makes it so that if you let off the first one, that could
Yeah,
letting
because
off the first one could be really bad.
Yeah, you could that could dump.
Restart the bleed.
Yeah, that's not good. So
Right.
you want to do that. And then so tactical evacuation care. Now this is going to vary very heavily depending on the situation you're in. And for tactical evacuation care for a civilian or in like a civilian scenario, I would consider like 911 the your evacuation method, your CASEVAC, your medevac, whatever you want to call it. In this scenario, for the civilian scenario, you might, if there's other people around, maybe it's just you. If it's just you, I would probably start the phone call as soon as the problem starts. And we'll get into that, but you start the phone call as soon as the problem starts, and then you're going over maybe what you're doing or where you're at, whatever, to the medical professional, and you're applying your interventions to save the guy's life, guy or girl or whatever. And then, so whenever you move into the tactical evacuation care, you're basically prepping the dude, the person, to move. You're rechecking everything. At this point, maybe you're putting like a hypothermia thing, putting him on a stretcher. Maybe you have like a makeshift stretcher. That's actually something I want to pick up, which is a Talon stretcher, which you can like fold up into like a thing about this big.
For the audience, it's about like a foot wide.
Yeah, it's like a foot and like.
Was it just use cables or what?
No, it's a whole thing. It just folds up.
Now, how does it create the rigid part?
It's the metal tubes. They
Interesting.
extend, and then they've got kind of like whenever you put up a metal
Like a tent.
kind of like a tent.
Telescoping pole.
Yeah, where it's got the little nub that like pokes out of a hole.
Yeah, it looks like.
They do that.
I just have this image of that thing like
And
crumbling.
it's got like a nylon / like netting in the middle. They're really rigid. They work. Stuff like that. That stretcher may be like moving them into your vehicle, like into your back seat or whatever it is, putting them into an area that's like comfortable and isn't like not in the middle of the road, for instance, and just getting them ready to be evacuated. So whenever in that civilian situation, whenever the medical people show up, make sure you let the people know what you've done to the people, stuff that you found, and then hand them off and let the medical professionals do your thing. What you are doing, you are not a medical professional by doing all the stuff that I just said. The only thing that you are doing is extending the period of time that this person has to not die.
Pretty much. That's the best way to put it.
And to buy time until medical professionals get on
people
site.
that are actually trained heavily that like can do stuff, because
Even
medical people go to school and they learn big words and all
Even
that.
in the army, that was like that. It was literally you were there to make sure that person didn't die. I mean, as much as you could.
You were just first line.
until the medic got there, or they got them out to the medic
Yeah.
or the field hospital or whatever. I mean, it's the same thing.
And then similarly in the military, in that scenario, then you would utilize CASEVAC or a medevac. CASEVAC means like a Humvee with a medical thing on it, or basically any like land vehicle, and then a medevac is usually specifically called for if it's a helicopter or something like that. And then in the military, you've got like a 9-line medevac. I can't remember the 9-line off the
I
top of
don't
my head,
remember
but
it
it's
either.
long and it's arduous, and it's basically
Yes.
the thing that you. Like a lot of time, I would keep it on a card whenever I did.
It's like the protocols.
Yeah, whenever I tested it, it's because you use the 9-line medevac to call for a medevac over the radio. And it does all of that stuff. It talks about the like in the army, you'll mark If the person's urgent or urgent surgical, priority, routine, or convenience. Convenience means usually they're gonna die, but there's not a whole lot you can do.
So here's your 9-line medevac. So it says line 1, location, the pickup site. Line 2, radio frequency, call sign, and suffix. D is none, and 7E is other.